Let my brother stay in my condo, but his girlfriend took over. She changed the locks, made rules for my property, and threw my $200 vase when I finally stood up for myself. I was enjoying my day off, sprawled across my sofa and scrolling through Netflix when my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hey, Ella, how are you doing?" Mom's voice had that sweet, sugary tone she always used when she wanted something. "I'm good, just relaxing." "What's up?" I asked, already bracing myself. "Well, I need to ask you for a small favor," she said, confirming my suspicions. "Your brother just moved out of his apartment. His lease ended, and he's having some temporary money problems." I sighed. Mason was 26, 4 years younger than me, and had never quite gotten his act together. He jumped from job to job, relationship to relationship, always with some excuse about why things fell apart. "Mom, where is this going?" I asked, though I already knew. "Well, you have that empty condo from your divorce with Daniel," she said, her voice getting higher. "Mason needs somewhere to stay until he gets back on his feet. I thought maybe he could stay there for a little while, just until he sorts things out." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. That condo was my financial safety net. After my divorce 3 years ago, I kept the place we had bought together as part of the settlement. 2 years later, I bought myself a nicer place in a better neighborhood, taking on a hefty mortgage. My plan was to rent out the old condo to help cover my mortgage payments. "Mom, I was planning to rent that place out," I reminded her. "I need the rental income to help with my mortgage." "I know, sweetie, but this is family we're talking about. Mason really needs help right now. You're doing so well at your marketing job, and he's struggling. It would just be temporary." I knew what temporary meant in Mason's vocabulary. I also knew that if I refused, Mom would bring this up at every family gathering for the next decade, subtly hinting at how I'd abandoned my brother in his time of need. "Fine," I said after a long pause. "He can stay there temporarily, but I mean temporarily." "Mom, thank you so much. Mason will be so grateful. I'll tell him right away." Before I could set any more conditions, she hung up. I threw my phone onto the couch cushion next to me and groaned loudly. So much for my rental income. A week later, I met Mason at the old condo with his few belongings. He looked exactly as I expected, casual, relaxed, like he didn't have a care in the world despite being essentially homeless and jobless. "Hey sis, thanks for this. You're a lifesaver," he said, giving me a quick hug. He smelled like he'd just smoked a cigarette. "Yeah, well, like I told Mom, this is temporary," I said, unlocking the door and walking inside. The place was clean and empty with just the basic furniture I'd left behind. "I need to rent this place out eventually." Of course," Mason said, looking around. "I'll be out of your hair in no time. Just need to get my next gig lined up, you know? Got some promising leads already." "I've heard that before, Mason. I need you to follow some rules while you're here." He turned to me with a slightly annoyed expression but quickly masked it. "Sure, shoot." "First, no moving anyone else in without my permission. Second, clean up after yourself. This place needs to stay in good condition. Third, no loud parties. The neighbors already know me and I don't want complaints. Fourth, no pets without asking me first." Mason held up his hands. "Totally reasonable. I promise I'll be the perfect tenant. You won't even know I'm here." For the first few weeks, I was vigilant. I'd stop by after work unannounced, and to my surprise, Mason seemed to be keeping his promises. The condo was reasonably clean. No strange people were living there, and he even cooked dinner for me a few times when I came over. "See, I told you I'd grown up," he said one evening as we ate pasta he'd prepared. "I'm impressed," I admitted. Maybe Mom was right for once. When I went to my parents' house for our traditional Saturday dinners, they were full of praise. "It's so good to see you two getting along," Mom said, serving meatloaf. "Family should always help family. I'm proud of you, Ella." Dad nodded in agreement. "Ella's been really supportive," Mason said. "That's what siblings are for." I felt a warm glow of approval I hadn't felt from them in years. Maybe this wasn't such a bad situation after all. After about 2 months, I relaxed my surveillance. Work got busier, and I was dating someone new. I'd call Mason occasionally to check in, but I stopped dropping by unannounced. "Everything good over there?" I'd ask. "Yep, all good. Place is clean. Bills are paid. No wild parties," he'd always respond cheerfully. I should have known it was too good to be true. One Tuesday evening, I suddenly remembered I'd left some important documents in the filing cabinet in the spare bedroom of the condo. I needed them for a meeting the next day, so I drove over without calling first. When I got to the condo, I could hear music blasting from inside. I rang the doorbell, but no one answered. After trying a couple more times, I used my key to let myself in. The sight that greeted me stopped me in my tracks. A young woman I'd never seen before was dancing around my living room wearing nothing but one of Mason's t-shirts. When she saw me, her eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in anger. "What the hell? Who are you, and why are you breaking into our condo?" she yelled over the music. "Our condo?" I was too stunned to respond immediately. "Hello, I'm talking to you. You can't just walk into someone's home with a key," she continued, turning down the music with a remote. Before I could answer, Mason came rushing out of the bedroom wearing only boxers. His face fell when he saw me. "Ella, I didn't know you were coming by," he stammered. "Clearly," I said, finding my voice. "Who is this?" The girl crossed her arms. "I should be asking who you are." "I'm Ella. I own this condo." I turned to Mason. "Care to explain?" "This is Scarlett," Mason said, moving between us. "My girlfriend. She needed a place to stay." "And you moved her in without asking me," I finished for him. Even though the first rule was not to move anyone in without my permission. Scarlett rolled her eyes. "Oh my God. Are you serious right now? We're adults. Mason doesn't need your permission for who stays in his condo." "It's not his condo," I said firmly. "It's mine." "Ella, come on," Mason whined, putting on his best pleading face, the same one he'd been using since we were kids. "I love her. We're really serious about each other. I was going to tell you, but I knew you'd get all uptight about it." I looked between them. Mason was giving me puppy dog eyes while Scarlett was staring at me with open hostility. "How long has she been living here?" I asked. "About a month," Mason admitted. "A month? A whole month?" And he hadn't bothered to mention it. I took a deep breath and counted to 10 in my head. "Mason, can we talk privately for a minute?" "Anything you have to say to him, you can say in front of me," Scarlett cut in. I stared at her. "I'd like to speak to my brother alone in my condo." Mason squeezed Scarlett's arm. "Just give us a sec, babe." She huffed but stomped off to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. "Charming," I muttered once she was gone. "She's just protective," Mason said. "And you kind of freaked her out by just walking in with your key." I crossed my arms. "Mason, what the hell? We had an agreement." I know, he sighed. "But we've been together for 3 months, and her roommate kicked her out, and it just made sense. She's really great when you get to know her." I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. Part of me wanted to tell them both to pack their things and get out. But I knew what would happen. Mom and Dad would take Mason's side, and I'd be the cold-hearted sister who threw her brother and his girlfriend onto the street. "Fine," I said. "She can stay too, but the other rules still apply. Keep the place clean. No parties, no pets without asking." Mason's face broke into a huge smile, and he hugged me. "You're the best. I promise we'll follow all the other rules. You won't regret this." "I already do," I mumbled. But he didn't hear me. As I was gathering my documents and heading toward the door, Scarlett emerged from the bedroom. "So, I'm allowed to stay. How generous of you," she said with a smirk. "Scarlett, be nice," Mason said weakly. "No, I'm serious." "Thank you, Ella," she said, but her tone made it clear she wasn't thankful at all. "But next time, maybe knock before using your key. It's kind of invasive to just walk in." I opened my mouth to remind her whose name was on the deed, but decided it wasn't worth it. "Sure." As I reached for the door handle, Scarlett stepped in front of me and opened it. "Bye now," she said with a fake smile and practically slammed the door behind me. I stood in the hallway, stunned. Did that really just happen? Did my brother's girlfriend just kick me out of my own condo? The following weekend, I was at my parents' house for our usual family dinner. Mason and Scarlett were there too, and my parents were absolutely fawning over her. Scarlett was telling us about her photography, Mom said, serving her an extra-large portion of pot roast. She's so talented. I'm between gigs right now, Scarlett explained, flipping her long hair over her shoulder. But I've had my work featured in some really exclusive galleries. That's wonderful, Dad said. It's nice that Mason found someone with such artistic talent. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. Throughout dinner, Scarlett dominated the conversation, telling stories about her travels and her art that seemed suspiciously embellished. Mason just sat there, gazing at her adoringly. When I mentioned that I'd dropped by the condo unannounced, Mom frowned at me. Ella, you should really call first. They're entitled to their privacy. It's my condo, I reminded her, and the agreement was that Mason would be staying there alone. Oh, don't be so rigid, Mom said, waving her hand dismissively. They're in love, and Scarlett is such a delight. Scarlett smiled sweetly at me across the table. I could swear there was triumph in her eyes. After dinner, when I was helping Mom with the dishes, she pulled me aside. I know you're used to being the responsible one, but try to be happy for your brother. He's finally found someone who motivates him. Scarlett told me she's helping him apply for better jobs. I bit my tongue and nodded. A month later, I got the utility bill for the condo. It was more than double what it had been when Mason first moved in. I called him immediately. Mason, what's going on with the utilities? The bill is over $300 this month. Oh, yeah, he said, sounding distracted. Scarlett likes to take really long showers, and she has this special lighting setup for her photography. It uses a lot of electricity. Mason, I can't afford these bills. You need to keep them reasonable or start paying the difference. Come on, Ella. We're both between jobs right now. Can't you cover it just this once? I promise we'll be more careful. I reluctantly agreed, but the next month's bill was even higher. And then I got a call from Mrs. Patel, the elderly neighbor who lived next door to the condo. Ella, dear, I hate to bother you, but there have been some very loud parties at your place lately. Last night they were blasting music until 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep at all. I apologized profusely and promised to take care of it. When I called Mason, he brushed it off. It was just a small get-together for Scarlett's birthday. Mrs. Patel is exaggerating. Mason, no parties was one of the rules. It wasn't a party, just a few friends. Anyway, gotta go. We're heading out. I decided I needed to check on the condo in person. The next day, I drove over after work. When I tried to unlock the door, my key wouldn't work. I tried again, thinking I might have used the wrong key, but no luck. I knocked loudly. After a minute, Scarlett opened the door, wearing a silky robe and looking annoyed. What are you doing here? She asked. My key doesn't work, I said, trying to keep my voice level. Oh yeah, we changed the locks last week. Some sketchy people have been hanging around the building. I told Mason we should give you the new key, but he kept forgetting. She didn't invite me in, just stood in the doorway blocking my entry. You changed the locks to my condo without telling me? I was struggling to maintain my composure. Our safety is important, she said with a shrug. Are you coming in or what? She finally stepped aside and I walked in. The place was a mess. Empty wine bottles and takeout containers littered the coffee table. The kitchen sink was piled high with dirty dishes. There were clothes strewn across the furniture. Where's Mason? I asked. Out job hunting, Scarlett said, though her tone suggested she didn't believe it herself. I looked around, taking in the state of my once clean condo. There were burn marks on the coffee table and what looked like wine stains on the carpet. This is unacceptable, I said. The place is a disaster. You're breaking all the rules we agreed on. Scarlett sighed dramatically and pulled a folded piece of paper from her robe pocket. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. Mason and I have been discussing it, and we think it would be better if we established some new guidelines. She handed me the paper. I unfolded it and read in disbelief. Rules for Ella's visits. 1. Call at least 24 hours before visiting 2. No visits after 8 p.m. or before 10 a.m. 3. No commenting on the cleanliness of the apartment. No bringing guests without permission. 5. Maximum visit duration, 1 hour. I looked up from the paper, my mouth hanging open. Are you serious right now? You're giving me rules for visiting my own property? Scarlett crossed her arms. We live here now. We deserve privacy and respect. You live here because I'm allowing it, I said, my voice rising. This is my condo. I'm letting Mason stay here as a favor. Well, it doesn't feel like a favor when you're constantly checking up on us and complaining, she snapped. Mason agrees with me, by the way. He's tired of you treating him like a child. I crumpled the paper in my fist. Where is he? I want to talk to him right now. I told you, he's out. And honestly, I think you should leave. You're getting worked up, and it's stressing me out. I have a migraine coming on. I stood my ground. I'm not leaving. This is my property, and I'll stay as long as I want. Scarlett's eyes narrowed. Fine. But don't blame me if Mason gets upset that you're harassing me while he's gone. I decided to wait for Mason. I sat down on my couch, which now had several mysterious stains on it, and pulled out my phone. What are you doing? Scarlett asked, hovering nearby. I'm waiting for my brother to come home so we can have a family discussion about this situation. She rolled her eyes. Whatever. I'm going to take a shower. As soon as she disappeared into the bathroom, I started investigating the condo more thoroughly. What I found horrified me. In the spare bedroom, where I'd kept my filing cabinet, there were now photography lights set up, along with what looked like a small studio. My cabinet had been pushed into a corner, and when I checked inside, several folders were missing. In the kitchen, I found not only dirty dishes, but also evidence that someone had been smoking indoors. There were cigarette butts in a mug on the counter. The refrigerator contained mostly beer and half-empty takeout containers. The bathroom door opened, and Scarlett emerged in fresh clothes, her wet hair wrapped in one of my good towels that I'd left behind. Are you snooping through our stuff? She asked accusingly. I'm looking at the condition of my property, I replied. Where are my files from this cabinet? She shrugged. I needed the space for my photography equipment. Mason put them somewhere. Before I could respond, the front door opened and Mason walked in. He froze when he saw me. Ella, what are you doing here? We need to talk, I said, standing up. Now. Babe, she just showed up unannounced again, Scarlett said, moving to stand beside him. And she's been going through our things. Mason looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. Ella, we talked about this. You need to call first. No, Mason, we didn't talk about this. And apparently you changed the locks without telling me? He had the decency to look embarrassed. Yeah, sorry about that. I meant to get you a key. This has gone far enough, I said firmly. You've broken every single rule we agreed on. The place is a mess. You've moved Scarlett in, you're having parties, and now you've changed my locks and moved my personal documents. Don't be so dramatic, Scarlett cut in. We're taking good care of the place. I gestured around at the mess. This is what you call taking good care of it? There are burn marks on the furniture. And what happened to the carpet in the hallway? Mason shifted uncomfortably. One of Scarlett's friends spilled some wine. We tried to clean it up. With what? Bleach? There's a huge discolored spot now. Look, Mason said, his voice taking on that placating tone he always used when he was in trouble. I know things aren't perfect, but we're doing our best. We're both going through some stuff right now. What stuff exactly? Mom said you were looking for a job. Have you even been trying? Mason and Scarlett exchanged glances. I've had some interviews, he said vaguely. And I'm working on building my portfolio, Scarlett added. Art takes time. I took a deep breath. I think this arrangement isn't working out. I need you both to move out. What? Mason's eyes widened. You can't be serious. I am serious. This was supposed to be temporary, remember? It's been 4 months. Where are we supposed to go? Scarlett demanded. We can't afford rent right now. That's not my problem, I said. I've been more than generous, but this is too much. I need to rent this place out to actual paying tenants who will respect the property. Mason's face hardened. So that's it? You're just throwing your own brother out on the street? Real nice, Ella. Don't try to guilt me, Mason. I gave you a place to stay with very reasonable rules, and you've broken all of them. I knew this would happen, he said, shaking his head. You've always been like this, thinking you're better than everyone else because you have your life together. That's not fair, I protested. Isn't it? You've been judging me my whole life, and now you're judging Scarlett too. I'm not judging anyone. I'm simply asking you to respect my property. Scarlett stepped forward. You know what? I think you're jealous. I blinked in surprise. Excuse me? You're jealous that Mason is happy with me. You're divorced and alone, and you can't stand to see your brother in a loving relationship. I laughed incredulously. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Is it? She crossed her arms. You've been hostile toward me from day one. I've been hostile because you moved into my property without permission and have been treating it like a dump. Mason put his arm around Scarlett. Don't talk to her like that. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mason, are you serious right now? You're taking her side? She's my girlfriend. And she's right. You've never given her a chance. I threw up my hands. This is insane. I want you both out by the end of the month. That gives you 2 weeks. We're not going anywhere, Scarlett said defiantly. Mason has established residency here. We have rights. What are you talking about? I'm talking about tenant rights. Even without a lease, we've been living here for months. You can't just kick us out without proper eviction proceedings. I stared at her, stunned. Are you threatening me with legal action over my own property? I'm just stating facts, she said with a smirk. Check the law. I turned to Mason. Is this really how you want to play this? Using legal loopholes to squat in your sister's condo? He looked uncomfortable but stood his ground. We just need more time, Ella. A couple of months to save up some money. That's what you said 4 months ago. Nothing has changed. Things are different now, he insisted. I have some promising leads, and Scarlett might sell some of her photographs soon. I looked between them, realization dawning. You never intended for this to be temporary, did you? You planned to stay here indefinitely, rent-free. Neither of them denied it. I'm calling Mom, I said, pulling out my phone. Go ahead, Mason said. She'll take our side. She always does. And he was right. When I explained the situation to our mother later that evening, she was horrified. Not by Mason's behavior, but by mine. Ella, how could you threaten to evict your own brother? Family helps family. If they need more time, you should give it to them. Mom, they've trashed the place. They changed the locks without telling me. I'm sure they had their reasons. You need to be more understanding. Mason has always struggled more than you. I hung up the phone feeling utterly defeated. It seemed like no matter what Mason did, our parents would always defend him. And now, to make matters worse, Scarlett was right about tenant rights. A quick internet search confirmed that I couldn't just kick them out without going through formal eviction proceedings, which could take months. I was trapped. My brother and his girlfriend had effectively taken over my condo, and there seemed to be nothing I could do about it. The next few weeks were a nightmare. After consulting with a lawyer, I learned that Scarlett was right. I would need to go through formal eviction proceedings to get them out. The process could take months, especially if they contested it. I tried reasoning with Mason one more time over coffee, away from Scarlett's influence. Mason, please, this isn't you. We've always been close. Don't let this situation ruin our relationship. He stirred his coffee absently. I'm not the one threatening eviction. You left me no choice. The condo is being destroyed and you're not even trying to find your own place. We are trying, he insisted. But the rental market is brutal right now, and Scarlett's been through a lot. Her last roommate was horrible to her. I'm starting to understand why, I muttered. Mason's face hardened. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You've never given her a chance. I decided to change tactics. Look, What if I help you find a place? I could even cover the security deposit. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the old Mason, my sweet, reasonable brother. Then he shook his head. Scarlett likes where we are now. She says the light in the condo is perfect for her photography. I bit back a retort about how Scarlett seemed to be calling all the shots these days. It wouldn't help. I need to get back, he said, checking his phone. Scarlett's waiting for me. As I watched him leave, I felt like I was losing my brother to someone who didn't have his best interests at heart. The situation came to a head 3 weeks later. I was at work when I got a call from the condo association manager, Mr. Reynolds. Ms. Chen, we need to discuss some complaints about your unit. My stomach dropped. What complaints? Several neighbors have reported loud noises, marijuana smoke, and people coming and going at all hours. There was also an incident last night involving the police. The police? I nearly shouted. What happened? Apparently there was a disturbance. One of your guests got into an altercation with another resident in the elevator. The police were called, but no arrests were made. I closed my eyes, trying to stay calm. Mr. Reynolds, I'm so sorry. My brother is staying there temporarily and things have gotten complicated. I understand family situations can be difficult, but the association has rules. If these disturbances continue, we'll have to take action, which could include fines or even forced sale of the unit in extreme cases. After hanging up, I immediately called Mason. No answer. I texted him, need to talk ASAP about police incident at Condo. Call me. Hours passed with no response. By the time I finished work, I was fuming. I drove straight to the condo, not caring if I was breaking Scarlett's ridiculous visiting hours rule. When I arrived, I could hear music thumping from inside. I pounded on the door. No response. I tried my key out of habit, forgetting they'd changed the locks. Finally, I called Mason's phone, and I could hear it ringing inside. After what seemed like an eternity, the door swung open. A man I'd never seen before stood there, beer in hand. Who are you? He asked, looking me up and down. I'm Ella Chen. I own this condo. Where's Mason? The guy shrugged and walked away, leaving the door open. I stepped inside and froze in shock. The place was packed with people. Music blasted from speakers I didn't recognize. The air was thick with smoke, and not just cigarette smoke. The furniture had been pushed against the walls, and someone had set up a makeshift bar on my dining table. There were bottles and cans everywhere. I spotted Mason in a corner, his arm around Scarlett, talking to a group of people. I pushed my way through the crowd. Mason! I shouted over the music. What the hell is going on? He looked up, surprised. Ella, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? This is my property. Mr. Reynolds called me about noise complaints and the police being here last night, and now this? I gestured around at the party. Scarlett rolled her eyes. It's just a small get-together for my photography exhibition. Small? There must be 30 people here. And is that marijuana I smell? That's illegal in this building. Chill out, someone nearby muttered. Mason pulled me aside. Ella, you're making a scene. This is important for Scarlett's career. I don't care. This has to stop right now. These people need to leave. You can't just barge in and demand everyone leave, Scarlett said, joining us. We live here too. Actually, I can. This is my property, and you're violating the condo association rules. They're threatening fines and possibly even forcing me to sell if this continues. Mason at least had the decency to look concerned about that. Really? Yes, really. Now end this party or I'm calling the police myself. Scarlett laughed. Go ahead. They were just here yesterday and didn't do anything. One of the officers even said he wished he could join the party. I stared at her in disbelief, then turned back to Mason. Is this who you've become? Someone who doesn't care about breaking rules or respecting other people's property? You're overreacting, he said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Fine. If you won't end this party, I will. I walked over to the stereo system and unplugged it. The music died abruptly, and everyone turned to look at me. Party's over, I announced. Everyone who doesn't live here needs to leave now, or I'm calling the police and reporting trespassing on my property." There were groans and muttered complaints, but people started gathering their things. "You can't do this!" Scarlett shouted, her face red with anger. "This is our home!" "No, it's not," I said firmly. "It's my property that I generously allowed my brother to stay in temporarily, a privilege that is now revoked." As people filed out, I noticed something on the kitchen counter, my grandmother's jade vase, the one family heirloom I'd kept at the condo. It was being used as an ashtray, filled with cigarette butts and what looked like joint roaches. Something in me snapped. I picked up the vase, dumped its disgusting contents into the trash, and clutched it to my chest. "This was Grandma's," I said, my voice shaking. "How could you?" Mason at least looked ashamed. "I didn't know they were using it for that. I'm sorry." But Scarlett just scoffed. "It's just an old vase. Stop being so materialistic." I turned to her, no longer able to contain my fury. "You don't get to decide what's important to my family. You've been nothing but disrespectful since the day you moved in here without permission. You've manipulated my brother, trashed my property, and now you've desecrated a family heirloom." "Ella, that's enough," Mason said, stepping between us. "No, it's not enough. I'm done being nice. I'm filing for eviction tomorrow. You have 30 days to get out or I'll have the sheriff remove you." "You can't do that!" Scarlett yelled. "We have rights." "Watch me. And in the meantime, I'm installing cameras outside the door and hiring someone to check on the property daily. If there are any more parties or disturbances, I'll use it as evidence to expedite the eviction." Mason's face fell. "Ella, please, don't do this." For a moment, I almost wavered. He was my little brother, after all. But then I looked around at my destroyed condo, the stained carpets, the cigarette burns on the furniture, the empty bottles everywhere, and my grandmother's vase that had been used as an ashtray. "It's already done," I said quietly. "I'll be back tomorrow with the papers." As I walked out with my grandmother's vase, I heard Scarlett yelling at Mason behind me. "Are you just going to let her treat us like this? Stand up to her!" But for once, Mason didn't respond. And that gave me a small glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, he was finally seeing the light.